I was referred to speak to someone about my mental health, and I also was in and out of therapy during this time. And so initially they thought that, oh, maybe it's like anxiety or depression, etc. Because of my personal experience, being diagnosed later on in life with ADHD, and also earlier in life with premature ovarian insufficiency or failure, which is also, I guess, commonly
Hello and
known
welcome
as...
to Not Another Money Podcast. Why is it called Not Another Money Podcast, you may be wondering? It's because this is not your typical money show. Get ready for real money conversations and lessons, expert insights from some of our very special guests, and hear some really inspiring stories from everyday people. On this podcast, you're going to learn how to earn more, how to spend less, how to grow the difference, and most importantly, live your best financial life. Hey, Tatenda.
Hi.
Welcome to Not Another Money Podcast. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you giving up your time on this lovely afternoon to come and have this conversation with me. So I'm really excited for today's conversation. I think it's going to be brilliant, and I think it's a topic that definitely needs to be discussed a lot more. So I'm really happy that you're coming on to have this conversation with me. So
Thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
no, good. Okay, so before we dive into the serious topic of today's conversation, I do like to do a little bit of an icebreaker just to kind of calm all of our nerves and, you know, set the scene before we jump into the main body of the conversation.
Sure.
So I'm going to play a game with you, and it's called Would You Rather. So what I'm going to do is give you two options. Would you rather do A or B? And you just pick which of the two you'd rather do, yeah? Okay, so would you rather win a £2,000 holiday to your dream destination, or would you rather receive £1,000 in cash?
A.
Yeah. £2,000 to your dream destination. Where would that be?
Ooh, what would my dream destination be? About 2,000.
Above £2,000, did you say?
No, I said where would that be? For my dream holiday. Well, I guess it could go towards Fiji.
Okay.
I've always wanted to go to Fiji.
Oh, nice. I think I would take the £2,000 holiday as well because it's doubled the amount. So rather than taking £1,000 cash, I'd rather have the £2,000.
Yeah, I really enjoy experiences as well. Like rather than like anything. Yes, of course. The wise thing to say is, I'll take £1,000. I'll invest it, etc. I'll put it in the LISA. But yeah, no, I'll take the holiday. I'm a traveller.
No, lovely. Okay, so the next one I have for you is: would you rather receive £500,000 but never work ever again, or earn £100,000 every single year for the rest of your life working?
So, sorry, I have to ask a follow-up question. So 500,000 and never work again. What does that mean? Like, I can never do any job for money, or I can work, but like, what does that mean?
Oh yeah, so money. So you can volunteer your time to do whatever you like, but in terms of never get paid to do another job again.
I would take. I don't know. I think this might be a trick question, but I would take the $500,000.
Yeah.
Like, invest it, run a business, get the money to work for me, and I would have freedom of time, freedom of everything else, and just set up different things so that I'm good for the rest of my life. I'm happy with that.
Oh, absolutely. I would have taken the same answer, to be fair.
Yeah.
Definitely take that 500,000, and I wouldn't need to work again because by the time I've invested that money, started a few businesses, I'll be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of risk involved, but I think, like, yeah, I definitely would do that.
Next question I have for you is: would you rather get £50 every single time you make someone laugh, or would you rather get £500 every single time you make someone cry?
Oh,
I know, isn't it? It's quite a sad one. When I saw that, I was like, it's a bit mean, but yeah, which one would you pick?
I hope I've never made anyone cry.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've made people laugh.
Yeah.
And I definitely would choose laugh.
Oh, really?
I know it's putting other people before myself, but yeah, that's not my character.
Oh, really?
Well, maybe cry with happiness.
See, that's what I thought. I was like, no, I'm gonna, exactly. I'm gonna manipulate the question a little bit. I'm like, I mean, I can make people cry with laughter. I have done that quite a few times. I have been told I am quite funny, so.
Really?
Yeah, I I mean, I get it a lot. That I'm funny. So yeah, cry with laughter I could do, but in terms of like, I don't know, making someone cry. Like,
Yeah,
genuinely
cry
upset,
sad, then no.
no.
But cry laughter, yes.
Yeah.
Bring me the 500, and I will
Or-
literally put in the time to go and learn the art of making people cry with laughter.
No, I'm thinking in terms of making somebody cry. Maybe we can do like a kind of transaction. So I let them know that this isn't like I don't even know where I'm going with this, but like play acting. So maybe make them cry, and then we split the 500 to 50 each.
Well, to be fair, whenever I've like shared my story or I've done public speaking,
Yeah.
there are a few people that cry.
Oh.
So
there you go.
maybe.
So you're already getting paid to make people cry.
So maybe
Yeah.
I could get paid that way.
Yeah.
As long as no one is hurt, like no
Yes.
feelings are hurt,
That's true.
then I'll take more money, of course. Why
No,
not?
that's true. And it's true because, yeah, crying sometimes is good, isn't it? So
Yeah,
actually,
I
you're
should
doing a
doing
favour.
cries. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. I can
Yeah.
schedule in a cry.
Yeah. So you can schedule in a cry.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
like basically just, have people book in to
Yeah.
cry, and then
Do you know that could
five-
actually be a business idea?
yeah, £500 a piece. Thanks.
No, we're joking about it, but I think you might be onto something, I think you'll be surprised if you put that out on Instagram, how many people will sign up to this
I'll have
crying
a
club.
go on.
Yeah.
I'll have a go on Eventbrite and see
Yeah,
how many.
see how many sign-ups you get. Like, that'd be hilarious. Like, yeah, it's true. You'll be surprised. I think people will sign up for that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next one, I think we've got two more actually. Would you rather receive £1 million but have to live in the UK for the rest of your life, or £500 but you can live anywhere in the world?
Would I rather receive £1 million?
Yeah, £1 million for you to be stuck in the UK.
Like, so
forever.
I can't travel. I can't do anything.
No, you can travel, but you can't live in any other country in the world.
Okay.
Ever.
Yeah, or £500.
No, 500,000.
And live anywhere else.
Yeah.
That's a difficult one. I think a bit of both, to be
Yeah.
honest. Because if I can travel outside the country, then of course I'll take $1 million,
Yeah.
and I would like be able to travel anywhere. But on the other hand, if I had $500,000 and like went to live somewhere else where the economy was like obviously less superior, then $500,000 would take me would stretch
a lot further.
Yeah, and I would probably be able to invest and do stuff. But to be honest, I mean, I don't hate England, and I could still travel and invest in currencies that are less superior. So
Yeah.
I'll take the $1 million.
So you'll take the $1 million, okay, cool. And I'm surprised because when I was preparing for this conversation and I've wrote the questions down, I would have thought you would have answered to not stay in the UK. I thought you would have taken the 500.
To be honest, my heart is definitely not in the UK, but yeah, I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you take the $1 million, okay, fairs. I think I would take the $500,000. Yeah, I think as much as I'm probably not going to leave the UK anyway. It's the reality, because my hubby's not so on the travelling to live in another country other than the UK or maybe Ghana. So as much as I know I'm not going anywhere, the thought of not having the option, I don't like.
But you could go to that's very true as well, actually. But you could go and stay in Ghana, isn't it, with your $500,000?
Yeah, exactly. Would you rather have £1 million budget to create your dream home, or get £500 cash?
Can you repeat that, please?
£1 million budget to create your dream home, or £500,000 cash to do as you please.
My dream home.
Really? Yeah. I think that's what I thought you would say, actually.
Yeah, because my dream home. Yeah, definitely my dream home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then that's it, isn't it? One thing off the bucket list to tick off, or vision board.
Yeah, one thing off the bucket list, and also, I've always had a dream of like having a home, but like an experiential home. And I love hosting and stuff, so not everything's a business, but I mean, what am I gonna do with? To be fair, £1 million in London is not gonna get you the biggest house.
True.
But £1 million somewhere else, like outside of London, outside of England, or wherever else, like literally that would be a dream. Yeah, absolutely. I'll take £1 million on my dream house worldwide.
Yeah.
If I could
exactly.
choose anywhere worldwide.
Location dependent.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
I think I'm about to take the money, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. Because not that I don't want a nice home. I don't mind having a nice home, but I think it's not as high on my bucket list or priority list or things that I want more so than things I want to do with the money. So
Yeah.
I think I'll take the money.
I mean, yeah. I see where you're coming from as well, because you also could have £1,000,000 towards the house, but like you have to also factor in like maintenance and stuff like that.
That's true as well.
So you could have £1,000,000 house and then it could just
No
like
electricity.
deteriorate and stuff. So yeah, I think there's definitely a balance, pros and cons to both.
Absolutely, and there's no right or wrong answer, is there?
No,
there's what we would do.
that. Yeah,
It's just fake
definitely.
scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay, no, thanks for playing.
Thanks. Can I have my £1,000,000 house now?
I'll give it to you after.
Okay, thanks.
All right, great. So that was a little fun icebreaker that we play. And then the next thing I like to do is a segment of the show, and it's called Not Another Money Moment, where basically you share a money story or money memory that's had a significant impact on you at one point in your life. So it might be from childhood, adulthood, or just a memory relating to money from your past that you want to share.
Okay, sure. I think the biggest one that's had an impact on me is being at uni, and spending the money not as wisely, and taking out like an overdraft. And after that experience, I kind of vowed to myself like I would never be in debt again, like productive debt. To be fair, I think it's like, I mean, sometimes it makes me a bit excessive. Like I don't even have like a phone contract or anything that. But not saying that that's not obviously productive, because like debt, but I just actually don't see the need for it. But
wait, sorry, you don't have a mobile phone contract?
No, like just like a rolling one, like month to month. So if I would needed to, I could stop it.
Stop it at any
time.
Because
I think also that goes off the back of having a car on finance as well in my teenage years. Like late teens, 20s, and being stuck in that contract for like 2 or 3 years. And so like now I just don't really like
the idea of it.
Yeah, I don't like owing people money. I don't like being in debt. I don't like owing the bank money. Like I just, as much as I can avoid it, I will. I mean, I do use like credit cards and stuff, but just because I know that I can pay it off straight away or at the end of the month or stuff like that. But I think that was those two things. Sorry, I know you asked for one, but
no, it's good.
Those two incidents just made me feel like I just never ever
want to be in that position again.
Yeah, like position of lack, position of owing, position of like feeling like I'm working for free because I'm paying off something that I've used already. Like I just don't like that. Don't fancy it.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, and that's kind of me when I was in my debt as well, many years later after uni. So at least yours happened at a young age where you're expected to make those kind of mistakes. Mine happened quite a lot later on in life. I say later on, I'm still young in the grander scheme of things, but it happened years later where I should have known better. And that whole concept of having to use your money today to pay for the sins of the past, it's long. Like it just felt like instead of getting ahead, I'm like going backwards because I'm getting paid and I'm paying for things that I did previously, as opposed to using that money to put towards my future goals and aspirations. So I totally get it, and I can see why that was a big moment for you. And I guess it's good that it happened at the time it did happen, so that growing Tatenda, adult Tatenda, doesn't make those kind of mistakes because you know better already.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I can definitely see the positives as well as the negatives to that.
Oh really? What's the negatives?
No, I think sometimes it's made me like more risk adverse. Okay. Where I know that if I do this, I still have an appetite for risk to some extent, but sometimes I think like, if I do this, then I'm like, but then it's like, it's not good in some instances because if you hold on to something because you don't want to, like, you're scared scared to lose it, you just don't realize how much you probably could have multiplied it.
True.
Yeah, like I think there's even a parable about that, isn't it? Like when you just like hold on to stuff.
Yeah, the parable of the talent. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it's affected me. I can see positives because, like, thank the Lord, like, I'm not in like debt. I don't owe anyone money unless you say unless you comment on this podcast and say you owe me money. But I don't knowingly owe anyone money like that, like, yeah, in that way. But I can see where there's certain deals I could have done, there's certain things that I could have done, and etc. And I sometimes like withhold, and I mean, yeah, so
No, I know what you mean. I think what you're talking about there is like the cost of leverage. So it's like you could actually use that money to make more money, but actually because of the fear factor or not wanting to lose or be without, you hold off on making those calculated risks. Yeah, that could have potentially brought bigger returns. Yeah. So yeah, no, I get it, and I think I'm quite risk averse too. I need 99.999% guarantee before I'm gonna make that risk, and I know what you mean. It is a bit overcautious, but I think mine stems a lot from my childhood as well, like seeing how my parents dealt with money and the issues that it did cause for them at certain times. It has made me very cautious when it comes to money. It's funny I say that, and I got myself into a lot of debt, but there was a reason for that.
I think no, of course, like, we can talk about that another time, but like, there's also a silver lining to that as well, because it's not like you were spending on clothes and holidays and stuff like that. Like, you actually were spending on something that is actually an investment, and you're reaping the results of it right now. True. So, and as much as it's like, it was obviously as much as it probably was burdensome at the time, and also like how it made you feel, etc., you took the risk, and the risk is actually paying off
in the long run. Yeah, to be fair.
Yeah, if you look at it that way, of course you wouldn't have wanted to be in that position, but is there another way you could have done it any other way? And if you hadn't done that, would you, for example, like, own your house? Would you do you understand? Like, if you had said, like, no, we won't buy it because it needs this much work, and we are not going to take that much money out, you would have continued to wait and wait and wait.
No, I get what you're saying, and there is truth to that, but I do know that there was things that we could have done differently that we didn't do, and in hindsight, there's things that I would have done differently so that we wouldn't have acquired the amount of debt that we acquired. So I think get that. When we first got the house, so just to give you a bit of backlog, because we're having a conversation about something that some of these listeners probably
don't know. Yeah, exactly. That's true.
Yeah, so in terms of my story, I got myself into a lot of debt when I bought my first home, and we took out loans to refurbish the house. And as much as you say I wasn't excessive, in addition to taking out those loans to furnish the house, we did go on a couple of holidays during that time.
Fair enough.
There was a bit of excessiveness
fair enough
as well during that process, and I think that is one of the dangers actually when it comes to credit. When it's somebody else's money, you can be a lot more reckless with it, and that's what we found at the time. So yes, we took out the initial loans for a specific purpose of refurbishing our home, but then we took out extra money to live our lives as well.
No, I understand.
So we did get a bit carried away, and I think in hindsight, if I could have done things differently, I think some of the things we would have done is not done everything straight away. So whilst the house was in a mess, the main thing that really needs to be done was the kitchen, but we did a full refurb from top to bottom. And what we could have potentially done is just done it bit by bit. So maybe just taken out a small loan, done the kitchen, and just done a little DIY job ourselves to make it manageable. Do you know what I mean? There's things that we could have done in hindsight, but we are here where we are, like you said, and it worked out in the end. And I think, to be honest, if I didn't go through what I went through that season, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
The podcast wouldn't have started. None of what I've been doing online would have happened had I not been gone through that experience. And I think everything happens the way it's supposed to happen, I guess, and it's all part of the journey and part of our story, which kind of leads nicely into the conversation that we're going to have today, actually, because we're going to be talking a bit about your journey and a bit about your story, which is a really interesting one, and it's one that I'm really happy that you're willing to come on the podcast to have this conversation about, because I think it's something that really does need to be discussed and addressed, and it's something that a lot of people go through and don't speak about, and the fact that you're going on this platform to speak about it, I really commend you, and I'm really happy that you're having this conversation with me. And yeah, let's dive into it. For the benefit of those that don't know who you are or know what you do, introduce yourself, tell them who Tatenda is and what Tatenda does, what Tatenda's about.
So a little bit about myself, like you mentioned, my name's Tatenda, and I professionally studied in real estate, so I'm a chartered surveyor, and I also co-founder and creative director at Mako Design, which is an interior design studio. And following on from that, I have a passion of like helping, talking, and bringing like human conversations, you know, to everyday human conversations. And because of my personal experience, being diagnosed later on in life with ADHD, and also earlier in life with premature ovarian insufficiency or failure, which is also, I guess, commonly known as the menopause. So early menopause, when you are diagnosed before 40. And I got my diagnosis in my 20s. So now I've also started advocating, speaking about my journey. My journey of how I got here, what happened, etc. And also just empowering people, because I feel like the menopause is not a subject that's spoken about in the older generation, let alone the younger generation. Like, like, what do you do with that information? You're not supposed to be going through that for the next 30 odd years, and you go through it like at a younger age. But also ADHD, because it's not something commonly also spoken about, I think, especially in our community. And yeah, so I just...
Yeah, no, thank you for telling us this and for coming on to have this discussion. I guess as much as you're comfortable with sharing, talk us through your story so far, your journey so far, because I can't even imagine what it would have been like getting that kind of diagnosis at a young age. So yeah, as much as you're comfortable with sharing your experience and your story.
Yeah, of course. It's been a journey, and it's obviously been a journey, one that I've not really like shared. I mean, I think I'm probably 6.5, 7, nearly 7 years like deep into the diagnosis. First of all, with the premature ovarian insufficiency, I'll I'll, I'll call it early menopause so that it's consistent. So starting off with that, and it was obviously difficult. It was shocking. I had just not recently, but it was a few years into marriage, and yeah, it was really difficult. There was a lot of denial. There was a lot of fighting. There's a lot of trying to figure out, have all the answers, because obviously when something is taken out of your control, you want to try and bring that back. And there was a lot of conversations about the implications on my health, a lot of implications on like the future, in terms of not only like health wise, but in terms of fertility, etc. So there was a lot going on in a short space of time. And there was a lot going on, and I think there was a lot of anger as well, just because of like how it was diagnosed, like, and how I was trying to push and advocate for myself. And it was the second opinion that like brought that to light. And so it was difficult, but we're here. I'm definitely in a way better place, and it's definitely a journey. And then obviously that spurred on to like the events that led after that, etc., led me on another journey to then being diagnosed with ADHD at the end of last year, 2023.
Okay. And can you talk us through what those, any of, as much as again you want to share, what the events that led to the diagnosis were then, or for you trying to inquire about it?
For the ADHD is so specifically, I think the biggest struggle was that after my a few years I think into my menopausal diagnosis, I started like losing focus and concentration. I started seeing changes like at work specifically, as well as at home. But at home, I could like sort of try and navigate around it, but at work for sure, like I was struggling. I was struggling to focus and concentrate, like I mentioned, and also at home, I realized that I was like my mood had like obviously decreased, and sometimes I'd just like be sad. I didn't even know why I was sad. Or at work, I'd sometimes be sitting at my desk and I'd just like be crying, and I just didn't understand like what was going on. And at the time, the workplace I was at, they had this mental health session, etc. And a lot of the symptoms checked out. So I asked to be referred to to a therapist, mental health, and I was already like partly seeing a therapist to like alongside the journey for like just trying to get ahead of, like, someone advised me like try and get ahead of what you're going through by like speaking to somebody, etc. But long story short, the main things again I'll mention, like focus, concentration, and my mental health was not in the like greatest place. I was referred to speak to someone about my mental health, and I also was in and out of therapy during this time. And so initially they thought that, oh, maybe it's like anxiety or depression, etc. It was a difficult time, and the fact that I had raised this at work as well, like I had been like, I'm struggling a little bit, etc., etc. I guess put a spotlight on me a little bit, and I was, it put a spotlight on me a little bit
in not a positive way, I'm assuming, so they weren't supportive.
So I think prior to that, I don't know if they had seen, because obviously I think I'm quite an introspective person, and I felt like I was slipping away, and I didn't want to have issues at work, like with performance or anything. So I was like really upfront about it. And so they like they can put stuff in place, support, etc., etc. But like obviously I don't want to get into that too much, but I started feeling like over the times, etc., that maybe it wasn't a great idea that I spoke up about how I was feeling. Like just fast forward, because of who I am and who I was at the time, like when I was quite like young, I was like really ambitious, and I really wanted to take on the world. I really wanted to even be in surveying, because I mean, till today, there's it's a male dominated industry, and I saw that as a challenge, and I wanted to get in there. I wanted to, just
shake things up a bit.
Like, and even so one, there's not that many. There is more women now, but there's not as many compared to the males, and also there's not that much diversity in the industry as well. It's improving for sure, but and so I wanted to, I was ambitious. I really wanted to do different things, and I was just thinking, why is it that I feel like I'm slipping away? And why is it like things are changing? I googled my first symptoms with the early menopause, and it turned out to be it came up, and I was pushing to the doctors, like, and they weren't. And it wasn't in time, and I just like that's just like, so by the time obviously you go through the NHS process, I didn't think to spearhead it and go like to my private insurer. I just thought like everything's under control,
Of course,
sort
you
of thing.
trust the NHS.
Exactly. And then so by the time I started Googling, and then like ADHD started coming up and stuff started coming up on my feeds, etc. I started feeling like, oh my gosh, like maybe I need to, I need to look into this. And I filled out like this questionnaire thing, and it came out quite high, and took it to my GP, found out like how to get all that sorted, like diagnosed and stuff. And that's just kind of how I came to it. Just to summarize it, like literally it was struggles at work, noticing differences at home, my mental health, and ultimately because of the challenges at work, I was pushed to try and find out more about it.
Okay, so then I have a couple of follow-on questions just from what you said, just to help me understand a little bit more. So prior to what you went through with the early menopause, were there any other signs like ADHD signs that you had been experiencing before that, like childhood or like teen years or early 20s, or would you say it was this that triggered it? And is that how it works?
So I've always very lightly, like when I look back now, I've always had ADHD.
Okay.
But for example, statistically in women, a lot of women actually get diagnosed later on in life, because our symptoms I was very good obviously at masking. And obviously if you for maybe people that don't know, like estrogen and progesterone are women hormones, and when those are deteriorating, that's what brings you into the menopause. And so when those hormones with estrogen is like food for your brain. It's the hormone that allows your brain to function, etc. It allows you to have yourself together, like the sort of thing. I don't know if that's definitely not the right word to use.
No, but I get the gist of what you're saying.
But so with me going into like the menopause and the estrogen obviously dropping, I can no longer mask, and I no longer had the mechanisms, the tools and everything else, like to continue like on the trajectory, like on the brain programming that I was on, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad I asked the question, because that just brings it together, and it makes sense to me. Because from when you was explaining your story, from what I was hearing or what I thought I was understanding, was that it was triggered by what the diagnosis was, as opposed to actually it was something that you've always had, but you've been able to manage it and balance it. But then once you didn't have the hormones in order to mask anymore, then it's like, oh, now I need some. Now I'm aware of all of these signs. Oh, what a journey you've been on, Tatenda. The fact that you're just sitting here and just in your right mind, like no, seriously, we love you, and that's the thing, we do that a lot. We laugh.
I know.
We just laugh when things are not funny, but it's just do you know what I mean? Just just laugh. There's medicine, I guess. I've heard like in terms of getting a ADHD diagnosis, it's a very long waiting period. It's a really long process trying to get that diagnosis. So what was your experience like going through that process once you'd done your Googling and you thought that this was what you had? What was that process between you thinking this is what you have to you being able to get that diagnosis?
Typically, I guess here in the UK, you would have to go to the GP, but I guess on Google I found out just a bunch of information. So first of all I did a questionnaire that I found online, and then when I went to the GP, they're kind of a bit resistant, and I was like I want to be tested. And so my GP was like, I'm sending you a form, fill it out and then send it back, etc. So which I did, because I already had filled out the questionnaire, a similar questionnaire, but I just had to fill out their one. And so I did that, and then she was like, yeah, you scored, but okay, sure, I'll refer you. because I guess I've met the criteria. And so so she referred me, and I asked to go down a route for something called the right to choose, because with any diagnosis, with a lot of diagnoses where the NHS have like a longer waiting list, you can do something called the right to choose, where you go on a waiting list, but it's typically shorter than the NHS route. So there are quite a few providers in the UK, and I've been helping quite a few people with this, actually, just identifying. The lists are updated frequently, so just identifying which provider might have a shorter waiting list.
Okay.
So at the time, obviously, I didn't know, but my GP was like, yes, this certain provider, and their waiting list was, I think, like 8 months.
Okay. It's not actually as long as I've heard. It's like 2-3 years I've heard.
Yes, I mean, typically some people are waiting for from 2 years. I've heard the longest person is 12 years. I'm not sure.
12.
I don't know if I wouldn't have been able to. I don't think I would be here.
Wow.
If I be honest, I
years.
wouldn't be here if I had to wait that long.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but of course you can get diagnosed privately as well.
It's money though, isn't it?
It is money. And also I think there was like recently even a scandal about whether the private ones
can be accepted as well.
Can be accepted.
Heard,
yeah. So it was a difficult waiting period, and also 8 months is like when they may get to you to give you an appointment.
So that's not even you getting a diagnosis, that's just starting the process.
Yeah, exactly. So all in all, I started the process like early 2023, and I had my actual appointment in December of 23, like just after Christmas, or just before Christmas, around Christmas time.
And then from Christmas when you had the appointment to you getting a diagnosis, what's that process like?
So I met with a psychiatrist online, and they asked me questions, just went through it, and then they do their own report, and then they let you know what their thoughts were.
Okay, so it's just one appointment, and then
for adults for adults is one appointment, but for children's two, I believe. And for children, I think as well, it's like more face to face.
Okay, so literally the online appointment, you had a chat for what, about an hour, half an hour, how long?
Yeah, I think probably about an hour, maybe more, around the hour mark. Yeah.
Okay, and then they just asked you, I guess, loads of questions about your childhood and your day-to-day experiences.
So before the appointment, there's a lot of questionnaires that you have to fill out online about your childhood, your adulthood, and also you someone who's known you for a long period of time or during your childhood fills out their part as well, like just identifying like how were you as a child, and giving examples of how I was as a child, as well as the other person saying how they, like certain situations, how do I react and stuff like that. And then the online one starts off like, it's from what I recall, like just started off like a normal conversation, etc., I guess, to check your cognitive coherence, and just general chit chat, as well as then like asking questions to, I guess, check that you haven't plagiarized or you haven't made certain things up. I'm guessing this is like just me, thinking out loud. And then so they've got quite a lot of information, I would say, beforehand, as well as having your questionnaire, and then as well as just assessing how you are, like, am I doing eye contact, am I twitching, am I touching my hands, and stuff like that.
Okay. Wow. And so what was the feeling like when you got the diagnosis? Did they tell you they're on the call, or do you get like, you have to wait to get a report back, or?
You have to wait. If I recall, you've got to forgive me, like I literally used to have like a perfect memory, and now it's like
listen, my memory
and now it's like it remembers
what it
Wait,
wants to remember.
Yeah.
No, that's fine. Okay, fair enough. Okay, but either way, it was within a period of time they gave you the diagnosis. And what was that like for you? Like, let me not put words into your mouth. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I think it was very, very, very validating. From having experiences where I was sort of like gaslit, or felt um like even me question myself, like, am I making this up? Sort of thing. Like, so I think it was like very, very validating, very like assuring, and for me, I think liberating. I would use that word, because like I knew, like, obviously I knew I wasn't making it up, but I was just like, I'm going for this assessment. I don't know whether like what will come up with it, because also the symptoms of the menopause and the ADHD can be quite similar, like like loss of focus, loss of concentration, like mental health challenges and stuff like that. So they're very similar. So I was like, are they just overlapping, etc. But then that, yeah, so it was validating. And also I think now I had like a real sense of awareness, and also I'm quite an introspective person. I was able to see, like, okay, this all makes sense now. What can I do about it?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And so, like, I love that for me, because a lot of the times, like, I feel like if I don't know something, I feel like I don't know what I'm up against. But when I found out about the ADHD, I was like, okay, this is why I do certain things. And what can I do about it? Because yeah, it might be a positive, and that's great. Okay, so now I need to, for example, I'm not like great at shouting about myself, but now I'm like, oh, okay, like this is the reason why I do it. So now I'm like, oh, I'm actually brilliant, and I
Yes, you are.
need to shout out about it.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes I can also have negatives which are attributed to, you know, ADHD, like and now I don't need to make excuses, or I don't need to struggle with that thing anymore, because I know what's causing it and I can challenge myself.
You didn't give the negative thing. I was waiting for you to say what the negative thing was.
A negative thing could be like overthinking. Like, I overthink sometimes, and sometimes I can be like indecisive, or not trust myself, but like I'm like, okay, this is like, you know, rejection sensitivity. What can I do about it? Yeah, that type of thing.
And what do you do about it?
I it's a journey, for sure, but I've learned to talk myself through it. I also have a coach, who is an ADHD coach, but helps me in other aspects.
Okay.
And so I'm able to have accountability. I'm also able to acknowledge negative thoughts and negative feelings about myself, but then challenge them. And so they are to be acknowledged, but then I can sort of pick at them. Are they true?
Yes.
Are they true? And what happens if, like, what's the worst thing that can happen? That, just those sort of things.
No, I love that. Yeah, I've heard that on a podcast recently, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do that more. And I've started doing it, and it really does work in terms of thinking about other scenarios at the same time. So like my default is to go to the negative thought as well. So I don't know, for example, this podcast interview that we're doing, you didn't respond to my message in a timely manner. Oh, she doesn't want to do it anymore, and she doesn't want to be on the show. And then I had to be like, is that true? What else could it be? Maybe she's not by her phone. Maybe she's, maybe she's in the toilet. Maybe she's having a shower. Like, and then it's like me having to give myself other scenarios that are not the negative one that I initially would go for. But it was funny you say that, yeah, because literally when I heard it the other day, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do this more. And it's been working for me, because now I'm able to talk myself off the ledge. Whereas before, it's every little thing, I'm just always thinking my default is the worst case scenario.
Yeah, catastrophizing. Yeah, it is a real thing, to be honest, for sure.
So no, that is a really good one. And I guess the next thing to ask about is in terms of how this has impacted you family-wise. So I know you mentioned you're married. Obviously, I know you personally, so I know you've been married for many years.
Yeah.
But for the audience, you've been married how many years now?
12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
12 years, one man. That's amazing.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. No, yeah, 12 years.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. Wow, that's gone so quick.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it has actually, if I be
nice.
honest. I don't think, I don't, yeah. I do remember, I remember it and I'm like, has it been 12 years?
12 years already, right?
Yeah.
But it's when you look back at the pictures, then you realise, okay, it's been 12 years.
Yeah.
That's how I feel when I look at my pictures. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, it's definitely been a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, how has it impacted you anyway in terms of your marriage? Like you getting that diagnosis, how has that affected your relationship or just changed your relationship in any way?
I think for me personally, I've been able to have a bit more grace, be a bit more open-minded, in the sense that when I look back at some of like challenges or some of my responses or anything like some of our dynamics, before I would say like I would mostly be able to see like, oh, what did my husband do in this scenario? But then now I can like, I'm like, wow, what has he had to do with? Like, yeah, like, and I can see how, yeah, I feel like I'm a lot more, I've always been like quite like easygoing, I feel, especially in marriage, but now I'm easier going, but also like I'm a lot more vocal now as well, because now I know that, okay, I need these accommodations. I'm not like I might not be doing something because, you know, I'm just a horrible wife or anything like that. Like I might, there's genuinely a reason, and while I need to work on that, like what are the accommodations that I could be asking for? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And also I'm a lot more vocal in explaining like, oh, okay, this is not a crutch, but this is this and this and this is my thought process through this, and I know that like it's a good thing, and this is how I can bring it to the table and help us.
Yeah.
Or I know that this is a bad thing, and this is what I'm trying to do to work on it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense.
Because a lot of the, like sometimes a lot of what I found like conflict within our relationship and repeat behaviors may have been just because like I wasn't aware where it was stemming from, and so even when I tried to stop it, or if I did stop it, I would have either like resentment or a sort of feeling about it, because I was like, oh, why should I stop doing this? It's like a part of me. But then now I'm a bit more like aware, like
self-aware,
yeah, I'm a lot more self-aware, and also like just understanding like, oh, this is how it's affecting my partner. So that thought process has come, like it's made me aware of those things, that okay, I might not be doing like neurotypical things right now, and I might find it difficult to, you know, to adjust to what my partner needs right now. But then if I can articulate it and say I am struggling, it will stop, you know,
the friction. Yeah, because then it's not an issue. It's not because you're just being like flippant or, you know, not doing it. It's like, no, there's actually a reason for it. So it opens his understanding in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you'd hope so.
Well, it does. I mean, if you you spelled it out.
Yeah.
So it's not, there's no room for you guessing what you think the other person is thinking or saying, because you vocalized it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. No, I love that. And in terms of him, so if I was to get your husband on right now, what do you think he would say about Tatenda pre and post ADHD diagnosis?
What would he say? He'd probably be, what would he say? I think he might say the same thing about the articulating.
Yeah.
Like using my words more. Yeah, I think he might say that. Like to keep it in a positive light.
She's more vocal,
Yeah, more vocal, whether that's a positive or negative.
No, to be honest, I think for men, well, let me not generalize, but generally speaking, men are quite black and white, right? So rather than me having to guess what you're thinking and feeling, I guess it's better you just say it. So then I know exactly what I'm dealing with, rather than me having to read your mood or read your body language. If you
Yeah.
just say it, then I can deal with it. So I think you probably would appreciate it more.
So we've definitely had like a lot more like, you know, like deeper conversations, etc. And also I've done a lot of research as well about neurodiverse relationships as well. And in case you didn't realize, like with ADHD as well, like you can have something like a special interest. And so like I think I'm quite blessed in the sense like one of my special interests is like psychology and just understanding how, you know, humans are and stuff like that. So I feel like that's been a bit of a benefit to me. And so I'm able to like really like try and deep dive and find out like what is going on in my head, because sometimes I feel like I wasn't, like I said before, I wasn't able to articulate myself, or I would just like not like confrontation or not like to deal with things. But like now I think it's taken a positive spin, and I think it not that I think, but like the feedback from my husband as well has been like, yeah, like he can definitely see the difference, and he can definitely see like certain things I'm trying to deal with and certain things that I'm improving. And also seeing how, okay, I'm not just a wacky thinker, because that can be like like an ADHD superpower. Just a fun fact that a lot of the inventors and many entrepreneurs are like neurodiverse, simply because of, you know, the amount of noise that happens in our brains. So yeah, I hope that answered the question without waffling. I feel like
No, it definitely answered
I
the
waffle
question.
quite a bit.
To be honest, I can't remember what the question was, but I'm sure you answered
How
it.
it's affected my
that was
my
it, what your
relationship.
husband would say about you. Yeah. No, that was really a very good answer. Okay, so I'm really interested actually to learn a bit more, hear a bit more about the impact that ADHD has had on your career and on your business and aspirations. I know you touched on it a little bit at the beginning, but just also in terms of career and business pursuits. I know you said you have a business called Mako that you do with your business partner. Even that would be interesting to know what that's like actually working with a business partner. And yeah, just share a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, sure. So which one should I start with first?
I'll start with the career.
Okay, with my career. Okay. I actually genuinely think that the aspects of surveying, like being, you know, traveling as well as that office space, actually really suited me with the ADHD, because the one thing that I find extremely painful is being sat in the office like all the time, and like if you've got no more work to do, or if not, you might still have work, but your brain might just be out. And if I was just stuck, like I've had moments obviously before I knew about the ADHD. I mean, gratefully so, like obviously with COVID, and also we're working for some really great organizations. Like it was like a hybrid even before COVID. So that really suited I guess I didn't realize at the time, but it really suited me that I'm able to go out and explore, and that's where I really draw my strengths from, like problem solving, etc. So I think the impact is that I've had to, and I'm on that journey, as I've mentioned. Like I've got a coach at who's also helping me to figure out, like I want to live my best life, and I want to live it authentically. And sometimes you go to uni for certain things that you may not, you know, have a passion for later on in life. And I think that while I have some sort of passions around real estate, not everything within that box or within my career I actually genuinely want to pursue or have a passion for. And so I'm just in that part where or in that season where I'm navigating what are my passions, what are my values, and what do I see me doing. At the moment I am putting all my, you know, efforts and passions into Mako, which is my interior design business, which is about 5 years old now, and it's really thriving. And shout out to Delapo, who's my business partner. She's an amazing business partner. She's been really supportive alongside this journey. Like, I've had obviously moments where it affects me in business as well, and I've also learnt how to be vocal in that partnership as well, and be transparent. And so whenever something's going on, I'll let her know, because I don't want a situation where the business suffers or anything like that, and vice versa. Like, if ever she needed support, I would obviously be there. Yeah.
That's amazing. So you wouldn't say it hasn't had a negative impact or anything like that on your business or business relationship, because you have a really understanding business partner, and because you can kind of be each other's yin to each other's yang at different seasons.
I mean, it's a business partnership. I think is like any other relationship. It's actually a really, I think we've had conversations before where it's like, yes, this is literally like a marriage at this point. Because, yeah, you're going to have moments where, where you disagree, and you're going to have moments where you're thriving together. And I think we've had all of those moments. But the key thing being respect and understanding, and just being there for each other. Like, obviously, I can't speak on her behalf, but I can only speak on my behalf. And yeah, like, we've even had moments where we've traveled together for weeks and stuff, and like, we just have to be open, and we have to be open and honest with each other.
That's amazing. And you're still in business together 5 years later, so clearly something is working. So that's amazing. Okay, so I guess I would love to sit and have this conversation for so much longer, because I feel like there's so much more that we could dive into that we've been unable to touch on. But I really do appreciate your time, and I know that you have other places to be. So just before we close, just a couple more final questions then. I think the first one would be in terms of somebody listening to this episode now, and they're thinking, I may have ADHD. What are some of the signs that they should potentially be looking at for? And if they do have it, what kind of advice would you, if they think they do have it, what kind of advice would you give to them?
Sure. I think if you think you have it, then like, you know yourself better than anybody else. And because it's a diverse condition, I don't even know if I should call it a condition. It's like, it's unseen, right? There's no way of, if my leg, for example, was broken, and I saw everybody else, walking straight, I would be like, oh, there's something wrong with my leg. But because it's in your head, it's in your brain, I think trust yourself. Do the research, and advocate for yourself to get the support. And if a diagnosis is important to you, then get the diagnosis. But you can obviously thrive without having the diagnosis. But it's important as well, I think, anyway, to have the diagnosis, because the later on in life that you get diagnosed and get the treatments that you need, it could lead to other like health complications, like mental health complications or health complications. So I'd say, like, advocate for yourself and do what you need to do. And don't be scared. I speak to a lot of people that are like, the Western world, they want to like put a label on everything, etc. That's the negative side of thinking. It's like, I'm a Christian, and I definitely believe like God's given, men the wisdom to understand and know these things. So I definitely think you should pursue it, because you could actually live like a way better, more fulfilling life with knowing, so you can better understand yourself, better understand your limitations, better understand that there's no ceiling for you.
I love that. No, thank you for sharing. And well, actually, my last question was going to be about dispelling myths around ADHD, but I think you've kind of touched on that already. But is there any more myths that you want to dispel now, just before we close?
Yeah, I know it's a disability. It's classed as a disability, but just a different way of thinking. And so many, I think it's actually more common than people are aware of. Again, because it's not a visible thing. You've thought the way that you've thought for the whole of your life, so therefore you just think this is normal because you can't get into anyone else's head. So I think it's just important that you don't, yes, they are negatives to it and they are struggles to it, but see it as also a beautiful thing, because like you're a bit wacky, a bit rough around the edges, so and it's different for everyone, it manifests differently for everyone. um yeah, it manifests is not the right word, but
I know what you mean.
it
Yeah,
presents itself differently in everyone. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything, because I know that everyone's experience is different, and I actually want to highlight that and validate that there are people that really, really, go through it. It's very similar to the menopause. One person's experience is going to be very different to the others. Some people are going to experience it, to a higher degree, and their challenges may be different, and they may have a lot more mental health challenges, whereas someone else could just use it as, they could be the next tech mogul, for example, or they could be whatever. Like, we're all different, and that every single person should be validated for their experience.
That is such a beautiful way to close the episode. Now, I really, really appreciate you, Tatenda, and I really appreciate your openness and your transparency and your vulnerability in this episode. I think you are going to help so many of our listeners just by you being you and sharing your experience and sharing your truth. So I really, really do appreciate you, and I really thank you for coming on to today's episode.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here.